like right before the year end, I always end up dropping the album. So I try to do one in February around my birthday and one before the year over with, to close the year out with a bang.
Okay, very good.
So yeah, it's kind of like a two for one. I'm gonna be promoting my music, rapping my music, pushing my music, and then at the same time vending my clothing business.
Oh, that's a nice that's a nice commercial tie-in. That's smart. That's smart thinking.
Most definitely, man. We trying to get on the economics just like how you is over there, man. We trying to make it all happen.
Well, I mean that's fine. People have to wear clothes, and they like to be entertained. So if you can entertain them and sell clothes, that's great. Maybe you maybe you can figure out a couple other merchandise type things. Do you have like anything? Do you have a shirt that says "super wavy" on it or something like that?
I gotta I actually don't. I actually don't, man. You just gave me an idea. I be trying. It's crazy. I be trying my best. I be trying my best not to personalize the stuff that I be selling. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
but
So
you should. If you're going to do concerts, if you're going to do concerts, it's perfectly normal for people. A lot of people look to have a memory of a concert, and so here you are. You sell clothes, and you're doing a concert, advertising yourself as super wavy. There's no reason on earth that you shouldn't let somebody have a shirt with your ID on it, shall we say?
man, I like that. I like that, brother Chip. You just gave me a new idea, man. I think I'm gonna go and go with it, man. I like that.
Sure. Sure, why not? I mean, if you find yourself maybe being able to expand your concerts a little bit, you have maybe a club or a community center or someplace that you because Houston's a big city. I mean, you don't even have to leave your city to find a venue for your rapping. Is it rapping or singing or both?
Rapping, pretty much. Rapping.
So no songs,
Say it again.
no songs. No,
Yeah.
do, re,
Um,
mi.
I got I got some reggae tunes that I know for a fact you would love and my brother Cedric would love. What's up, Uncle Sid? But
I'm good.
mostly I
I'm
stick
good.
to
Please tell
rap.
me.
Well, you should play one of them for us at one of these streams.
Most
Let us hear
definitely,
one.
most definitely. I tell you what, the next live, I gotta get you, Uncle Sid, and with everybody else into it, with the Muslim brothers, with the Christians. We all gotta have a big live show. You know what I'm saying? Sometime next.
Well, of course, Islam isn't very big on music. I mean, they think except for except for nasheed, non-instrumental uh, Quran singing. They really aren't into much music. If they're Orthodox, they're not.
You said
Uh,
Muslims.
Muslims aren't into singing much.
I want you to be careful, brother Chip. I got brother Marcus on the panel, and he's a Muslim.
Well, I mean, but I mean, if he knows Islam, then he knows I'm telling the truth.
Nah, I'm just cutting up. Uncle Cedric. Um, I know,
What it
brother Chip. I
do?
know you remember Uncle Cedric.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember my good brother. He was down in my island a couple of times.
Yeah, I've been to your island in St.
Yeah, yeah,
Martin. I
yeah. I
remember
remember.
our conversation.
Yeah, I remember too. How you doing?
Good, very good. How's the island?
Yeah, everything is nice. We're in political season now, so it is the back and forth that is happening. But economic wise and just generally, the island's doing pretty well.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
what are the politics in St. Martin? What is the you're on the Dutch side.
yeah. I'm on the
So,
Dutch side.
so what's the so what is the I mean it must be very small politics,
Well,
like a town.
that's the assumption, but an island manages things that a state runs. We have a port, we have an airport, um, it's a small island, but we have almost a $500,000 budget for the government. So you can imagine that there's a couple of $1 billion that passes through this little rock on a yearly basis, right?
Well, sure, because it's you're like the first stop for all the cruise ships in the Caribbean.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Everything that leaves
But
Miami to Fort Lauderdale stops at your place.
yeah, yeah, that's a definite, and then we get all the hugest ones from the Adventures of the Seas line. So we're doing pretty good where that's concerned. Even stay over occupancy. I run the Hess management for a major resort on the island now, and we got occupancies up in the high 80s in the lowest part of the lowest part of the season. So we're doing actually pretty well.
Fantastic. That's fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
if you can get 80% occupancy even in a slow season, that's doing really
Yeah,
well.
yeah, it
Most
varies.
resorts
It
are,
varies. Yeah, it varies week to week. But
of course.
our lowest point was 68%, and I'm talking about Maho, which is a 800 a room plus resort. So
So an 800 room plus resort. And what time of year was that lowest
that's
point? What's
that's
the
that's that's 65% occupancy was in late August, and since then it's been up over the 80s. So we're doing very well.
right? When in late August, of course, is peak hurricane season. That's when people are
Yeah,
worried
yeah,
about
yeah.
getting blown out of their hotel room. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
perfectly
We had a little
understandable.
storm. We had a little storm the other week, and it was nothing major, but it was interesting the mechanisms that needs to get in play to keep the guests occupied and happy and safe.
Yeah, no, that is always that's always an item there. That hurricane that went up to the northern part of Florida passed by us in Southwest Florida as a modest tropical storm. I mean, the trees were bending over, the trees were bowing to the wind, but it was not a
It
big
was
deal.
manageable for what we're used to.
Right. It was a manageable storm. I mean,
Yeah,
the
like
only casualty we had was the
we don't
proprietor.
blink an eye at a tropical storm anymore. And a category 1 hurricane, we go like, well, yeah, whatever.
Right. No, a category one is just a heightened tropical storm. It's not usually a. It's. I mean, the main problems come with the storm surge, as you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
That's a major.
the and the part of Florida where we are had had a really I would say it's a category five what we had because for insurance purposes they try really hard not to count it when it gets within a kilometer or two of a category five hurricane. For insurance purposes, they don't want to declare it because the insurance companies are obligated to pay more for the higher
Mhm.
the category is, the more they're
Yep.
required to pay. So there is
That's why
almost
they took so long to categorize Irma.
right.
Yeah, she was a
It took them
six.
it took them a long time to categorize Irma, and this Ian that hit us a year ago
Yeah,
in
Ian
Florida
passed a couple of weeks ago.
last year.
Oh yeah, last year. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Last year it smacked us, and it really knocked out all the barrier islands.
Hmm.
Fort Myers Beach, Pine Island, um, Sanibel Captiva. some of the richest, really rich real estate, as you probably know. I mean, there's not a house on those last two islands, Sanibel and Captiva, not a house there that wouldn't sell for around $800,000. The most modest place you can find on those islands would have sold before the hurricane for anything from say $800,000 to multi millions, and they
Hmm.
absolutely got smacked. They got washed away. They
Yeah,
they
I
absolutely
can
got
imagine that.
they got washed away. I have a double voice going over.
I think it should be good. Now. Oh, brother, I think that's brother Dwayne. What's up with you, boss? With your mic.
What's up, brother? How are you?
Chilling, everything good. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
man,
got,
I'm checking in.
you got. Hey, Dwayne, you got an echo. Come out and come back.
You got to turn off his
All right.
YouTube.
Oh, turn off your YouTube. Turn off your YouTube. My bad, brother Chip and Uncle said.
All
All
right.
good.
Oh, hold up. Okay, so brother Dwayne, I think you got to turn off your YouTube.
Oh, y'all can still hear it?
Yep. Yeah, the feedback's gonna come through.
All right, hold up.
What do you got to do, Uncle said?
Yeah, he just got to turn off his YouTube. Yeah, otherwise the feedback's gonna come through.
All right,
Probably on his laptop, got two screens open.
oh, okay. My bad about that, Uncle said and Uncle Chip. Y'all keep going.
It's all good.
No worries. These little things happen all the time.
That's how we know it.
Well, that's really good news for your island that there's so much. There's so many people passing through, and they're happy to be there, and um,
Yeah, it's always
everybody's
all good,
pretty
you know.
much
We
kind
got
of
a healthy economy, especially after the last couple of years with the hurricanes
right.
and
I mean,
the pandemic. So it's good that we're making a bounce back. It's necessary even.
right. The pandemic. We discussed that the last time. And your advice for should have knocked on
Yeah, I
you should
play
have knocked on Anthony Fauci's door and said, "Move over. Let me give you some. Let me tell you how it should be," because he really screwed things up.
Oh man, yeah, that is still a lingering legacy of the of our local prime minister. How that initial attempt to deal with COVID, they fucked it up. Well, now you know what they a lot of countries around the world fucked it up. Is I am
Yep.
fortunate that I come from this background and as part of the pseudo killers, we have a methodology in researching information and getting to the to an understanding like in real time. So I was able to write a suppression plan, which at the point I was given the opportunity, it was rather late in the pandemic, but some aspects of it I could put into play. And secondly, based on being on these social media platforms, I was prepared to deal with the pushback that was obviously going to come from the vaccines because of the advent of social media. So it's good and it's bad. It allowed me a platform whereby I didn't need to use the established media, and uh, and having that platform, the established media eventually got a hold of me and in touch with me because of my ability to engage on the social media. But at the same time, the mis and the disinformation was running rampant. So
Absolutely. Huge.
so I was, just being in the right place at the right time, being able to steer a lot of people. I still get random people coming up to me and telling me based on my advice and my clear breakdown of how the vaccines work and what is going on, that they actually took it.
Yeah, I mean, it was very difficult because these viruses mutated so quickly that even if everything worked perfectly for the original vaccine, within 6 months to a year, it was an entirely new virus. And
You see that understanding eventually evolved out of continuously studying and mapping the genome of this particular virus. But initially, we thought reaching a certain number of vaccinated people would provide us with herd immunity and thereby nullifying the virus. However, based on it being a coronavirus, we understand that these mutate to the point that they become endemic. So when the first wave of the vaccines came out and we saw the results of how effective it was, we were actually starting to talk about its ability to prevent infections because it was actually doing that by suppressing the viral load that a person carried, and also having such a high antibody count and specific antibody count that you did not develop symptoms, effectively rendering you uninfected. Eventually, we realized that there was a breakthrough with the third wave and the mutation into the Delta strand. Once the Delta strand came on board, we saw that even quicker the Beta strand came around. And what this is telling us that is we're seeing evolution in real time. Environmental pressures was forcing the virus to adapt. So the virus, based on it being an RNA strain, would mutate in every individual that it infects. So what you shed as viral load was different than what actually came in. Due to the rapid rate of mutation of an RNA strand, you're going to get an increased rate of mutation. But what we saw is that the virus was actually fighting back. It was slipping behind the defenses that were established. That did not render the vaccine useless. What it did was put vaccines back into its proper perspective, which is ultimately to prevent serious infection and death. A vaccine was never and can never be designed by its concept to prevent infections because the vaccine is only effective. It trains your body to be prepared. So after 2 weeks, whatever they put in qua vaccine has already left. What your body is left with is a memory, the ability to produce the necessary antibodies in real time, whereby reducing the effects of your infection, right? And we saw that when we looked at the hospitalization rates after mass vaccination. 99.9% of hospitalizations and or deaths were in the unvaccinated population. That 0.01% was in the cases that we could expect a vaccinated person to die. Old age, immune compromise, etc. However, the vaccines proved highly, highly up in the high 90s to be effective at preventing hospitalization and death. As a lupus sufferer, I have lupus, skin lupus, getting caught with my pants down, getting COVID without having been prepared by the vaccines. I got the Delta strand. I was already vaccinated. And at the end of the back end of the Delta strand, I got infected. I got a serious flu, and that was it. me being immune compromised, I was at high risk of being hospitalized and or suffering the consequences, namely death. So I'm a living example of the efficacy of the vaccines, even though I got infected. So now I have double immunity, which is inherent immunity from being infected and and immunity from the mRNA vaccine.
I know people who got A, who got Delta, who got Omicron, and who got AB. They've hit they've hit for the, in baseball terms, they've hit for the cycle.
Hmm. That's a grand slam.
Oh, a single, a double, a triple, and a home run. They've got them all. They collected all the COVID merit badges.
Yep.
What was I going to ask you? What do you think um, about vaccine injury, or or the side effect that's being the what's that heart side effect that's being reported, that was reported early on in young men? Trying to think of the exact name of it.
So I fully agree with that, with there being a compensation aspect for the possibility of being harmed by vaccines, because science doesn't operate in absolutes, and there are 7 billion people on this planet, that each of us is genetically distinct. So we can work in ranges, but there is the possibility that very small percentages of people might be harmed by vaccines, right? That's a
Right.
fact. So the ability to get compensated in the event of is a sign of a high level of ethics and a moral understanding and a moral obligation to correct any possible adverse effects. Now, with regards to myocarditis,
Myocarditis.
one of one of the
That's
side
what I was trying
effects
to remember.
of getting COVID is myocarditis. And if you get myocarditis after due to infection from COVID, the risks are greater and the chances of death are dramatically increased. The risk of getting myocarditis side effects from the vaccines are very limited, uh, and in most of the cases, treatable. So it's mostly in teens, young boys, teens, and it is treatable, right? And it is very few and far between. So yes, it is a side effect, but if you put that percentage wise, you're looking at 0.0000000 something percentage of all the vaccines administered, all the people vaccinated, and the cases of myocarditis. So these things are, and again, it speaks to the ethics of the entire process. There is a possibility, we're going to say it. However small the likelihood, we're going to say it. But what happens is when you don't, when you fundamentally don't understand these percentages, or you're engaging in the conspiracy route, you're gonna pretend as if there's this high risk of myocarditis, or you're gonna pull up that very pseudo misinformation documentary of all these athletes that are falling down and dying and collapsing on the different playing fields. Whereas the majority of these clips are pre-vaccine, and the majority of these individuals are doing just fine. But the misinformation, and always to what end is the question, but again, it's financial because the hype sells. Some unethical individual is going to produce a video or a documentary that you can't even call it a documentary, trash, claiming that post vaccines, more and more athletes are collapsing due to heart issues that are promoted or stimulated or caused by the vaccines. Now, anyone who is making this claim has absolutely no idea how a vaccine works. Any and all side effects from a vaccine is within the first 2 weeks of the vaccine being administered. Why? Because the active ingredient stays no longer than 2 weeks in your body. We continuously look for side effects over longer periods, but none ever has been found. Why? You're just giving your body the infection, but in such a way that it doesn't kill you. Whether it's using uh, a virus that has been crippled, maimed, or made inactive, where as you run the risk of getting injected with live virus, because that's not an absolute science either, or you're going to deal with antibodies that are produced in other animals whereby they are infected with the virus. Your body, the antibodies that these other animals produce are extracted. You're injected with these, and produces uh, 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 your body then produces antigens, and then in turn produces antibodies. Or we can go with the safest, cleanest method, which is modern technology, our ability to genetically identify the specific proteins that play a role in the infection process of a particular virus, replicate that, and by means of a lipid coating, inject this into the body and have the body now produce the precise antibodies required to neutralize any virus. I think I'll go with the 21st century technology. I'll go with the mRNA because none of us here wants to send a letter with traditional mail. We'll write an email.
I got a question, brother Chip.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay, so with the Gaza, Gaza, is that in is that in um is that in what is that in Iran or Palestine?
No, that's on the Mediterranean coast. It's a small strip of land south between located between Egypt and Israel on the Mediterranean Sea, and it's really a beautiful little piece of land. I mean, it should be if if they were a different mindset, they could have a multi-billion-dollar tourist industry in that place. That the ocean is better than it's better than anything in Florida. It's probably better than most places in the Caribbean. Beautiful, clean water. They could have a tremendous development there if they would simply change their mindset. It would be a gold mine, that place. Absolutely gorgeous.
So, what's going on over there? So are you basically saying that Gaza is its own country?
No, it's a territory.
Oh,
It's
so
a territory which was at one point part of Egypt, which was captured in the 1967 war with Egypt, Syria, and the other Arab countries. It was held by Israel until the 1978 Camp David Accords, when uh, when the um, when the Sinai Peninsula was returned to Egypt in exchange for Egypt recognizing Israel as a country. Gaza was a little piece of land left over after that agreement with Egypt. It was not returned to Egypt. It was considered part of Arab Palestine, where the vast majority of population are Arab, and
Let me ask you,
that along with the west, what they call the West Bank, which is the part of historic Palestine east of the Jordan River, but east of the Jordan River and before the actual country of Jordan. That is the geographic area where a vastly majority Arab population lives.
let me say this real quick. Let me say this real quick, brother Chip. Uh, Uncle said, brother Darkness, peace to you back again. I want to say this, and I want all y'all opinion on it. My whole thing is they fighting for this land because of religion, whether it's to be on the Holy Land, whether it's to get the tourist dollars, whether it's to say you in the right place at the right goddamn time in fake history. My whole thing is they fighting for this goddamn land on some, and it's all fueled by religion and they God. Can y'all tell me I'm wrong or dispute me?
You are mostly right.
I would agree. If we would divide up the reasons for the conflict in the Middle East, it's going to be 85% religious based.
The origins are religious, yes,
Yeah.
and the
the
origins are
whole the
religious
whole
because of the
idea
relationship.
that this particular that Jerusalem is a holy place, that concept alone fuels and stimulates confusion on both sides. The fact that uh, 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 um, um, uh, the whole geopolitics that actually happened when the Zionist when this state was created by the Zionists and via England is also rooted in religious doctrine. Um, the both sides are waiting and promoting and expecting Armageddon, which is again religious based. So a lot of the conflict, whatever the actual verbiage around what's going on, is ultimately religious based.
Brother,
Essentially, it's like the narrative is religion, but I look at it like a business front. It's like it's like using a business that's legitimate, legal, but the practice inside the business is illegal. So they use religion like I'm a Jew. I have a right to be here because of my Abrahamic faith. Okay, that's the front. But the truth is, these guys aren't actually, it's like I say, it's a business front. They're not actually doing what their business says they're doing. They're actually using that business to do something illegal, such as, you can just say, this is what I say. And this is how you're able to figure out that it's not really, yes, it's religion that they use. Yes, that we can all agree. It is definitely religion that they hide behind as their mask. But the truth is, they're not religious. They don't really they don't really use their doctrines. They don't really read the scriptures and utilize the scripture to back up their secular driven politics. I believe, like for the most part, they call themselves Jews, but here's the thing. I I noticed that if you look European, if you have a European look to you, and you are affiliated with the Federal Reserve, let's say you're a Federal Reserve Bank, a chairman, or something like that, or the Security Council, any of these European type of people owns so much stuff. But here's the problem: they can't own anything without first saying that they're Jews. That's what I've noticed growing up in life. Anytime I saw a powerful person that owned like a lot of stuff, like I own, like the guy that owns all the casinos in Las Vegas and stuff. These guys call themselves Jews. My thing, even the man that owns so-called the rap and hip hop genre. So most of your greatest rap and hip hop albums, artists, anything you can think of in terms of urban rap and hip hop, it is owned by a European that's in his late 70s, 80s, doesn't look doesn't look like he has any knowledge, expertise on rap and hip hop or the culture, but they own it, they dominate it. And the sad thing is they can't just say, "Hi, my name is Larry. I'm a white guy and I own rap and hip hop." No, they have to say, "Hi, I am Larry and I'm a Jew and I own rap and hip hop." They have to say they're Jews. So I think religion is just a mask that they're using for entitlement privileges. It's their way of saying, "Oh, I can get away with this because I'm a Jew." It says it here. It says God's going to give me these things. It says the earth is going to, if I was able to accumulate power and dominate, monopolize, and and I was teaching my kids, look, I'm giving you my empire. I'm going to die soon. I'm going to give you all my inheritance. But this is how you run the show. You have to let everybody know that you're a Jew because you can't own nothing unless you're a Jew. Name one rich, very powerful, rich white man that is very powerful and rich that doesn't call himself a Jew. They're
Bill
all
Gates,
Jews. Bill
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 Gates,
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 Jeff
Bill
Bezos,
Gates, Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett.
Jeff Jeff Bezos is like he doesn't he's actually real enough he's how do I say this? He's of everything that he's surrounded by is Jew. Everything that's about even his family lineage is Jew. But he just chooses not to be a Jew, which is a very admirable thing for somebody to say, yeah, I'm rich, I'm wealthy, and I come from Jewish lineage and I'm around a bunch of Jewish people, but I don't partake in that. I respect those people way more than somebody who owns rap and hip hop, but
Uh,
you're a Jew.
just, I mean, it's not my world, and I think you know this better than I do. But isn't Dr. Dre rather influential, and doesn't he own quite a bit? And I don't think he's Jewish. Am I right? Isn't he a
Or you talk
billionaire?
about that.
Is he a rap billionaire?
Are you saying you talk about Dr. Dre?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, okay. So how do let me explain it. Let me explain it in a different way. You got somebody like Kanye West, right? Who at one point in time was considered almost the richest black man in all of the world, and he was up there in the billions. And just by one podcast, just one YouTube 1 hour segment, he was able to go from billions, hundreds of billions to hundreds, just 100 and 1 million, just a little shy under two. So he doesn't even have $200 million after that podcast. And my reason for bringing that up is this: you got rich people like Bill Gates. Bill Gates is another one. Bill Gates is a rich man, but he's no different than Donald Trump. He's rich, but he's owned. He's not rich. It's hard. He's not really rich. He's just he's owned, and he's a debt slave. But Bill Gates and Donald Trump happen to master the American way, which is debt. So the greater you are at debt, the more rich you can look. But in the end of it all, you're really not rich. You're actually in debt. You owe, if not the principal, but you owe the interest. And when it all gets boiled down, they actually, even though you created the brand and the assets, the bank is entitled to the bigger majority share simply because they capitalize on your idea. Yeah, you're the smart man and you can sell and you're great at marketing, but you needed that money to do what you did. And when you got that money, you sold your idea. You sold your energy and your work, your innovation. You sold it. And the only reason why you look rich is because it's useful to the bankers, but the bankers are the ones who have control of you the whole time. Bill Gates is just a front man. He's no different than the rest of them, Fauci and all of them. These guys get on TV, they look rich, they look powerful, they jump on private jets, they eat fancy every night. But these men have people they got to answer to, and these people that they're answering to are Jews, men that call themselves Jews. And these men don't do nothing. All they do is just show up, wave a little bit, take a couple pictures, and that's it. They're gone. They don't got to do the work. They're in the background,
I think
lobby.
I think that you should study how the great Rothschild fortune was formed, because it's a tremendous story that goes over centuries. But fundamentally, the Rothschild fortune began with a man and a peddler cart in Vienna and in Austria and in Bavaria, and he began to become rich because he was living in the principate of one of the many German princes who needed different services and favors. And this guy made himself the the indispensable man for this ruler, that everything he needed in politics, in economics, in life, he provided for his German prince. And because he was so good at providing and listening and completing orders and making things easy for the man that he was working for, he was able to gradually accumulate a lot of money locally. Then he sent his sons, one to he sent one son to Paris and one son to London, and they did the same thing for the British and the French governments. They became indispensable in providing financing, goods, and services to the British Crown and to the various French governments that came along. And they were so good at it that they made themselves immense fortunes. But it was not because they exploited people. It's because they were able to do and provide great goods and services that people wanted, and that because they were able to do that, they themselves made money. And they also did one other thing that Jews have traditionally been very good at, and I've seen this personally several times. They will work to help their family members to go. If you have a family, the father sent the son to London. He sent the son business. He gave the son advice in London. The son in London began to grow his business. The son in Paris began to grow his business. The son in Vienna began to grow the business. And they were all working together to grow each other's business. So that one gets ahead, another gets ahead, a third gets ahead, a fourth gets ahead, and then you have a very powerful family, and they're all ahead, they're all rich, they're all doing extremely well, but they concentrate on what's important, and they always, or very often anyway, work together, help each other. They don't compete. They make things happen for each other, and that's something that other people aren't as good at. And those who are good at it tend to make money. If you have a family that works that way, where they can rely, where your youngest brother, for example, needs to get a PhD, and his brothers are going to go to work to get him what he needs, to make him be a surgeon, to make him be a businessman, to buy him a business, to get him into a hotel, to get him into whatever it is that he can do to work for somebody else in the family, those people are going to be rich.
Most definitely, most definitely. Uncle said, you want to add something to that?
Yes, there are some nuances to the accumulation of wealth. Of course, money lending is a part of their tradition, and they understood financing, and uh, they took over London, for example, by financing both sides of a war. Right? They would finance both sides of conflict, uh, whereby they would always be in a fortunate position. The country that lost owed them, so they would gain real estate, and the country that won eventually paid them back with dollars and cents. So they built their fortune, um, not only by hard work, but by being very conniving and smart. That's part of the whole history of the Rothschild. But when it comes to uh, tying things together, the you know the Jewish is Israel is a state, and some of the people are Jewish, but most and all of them are Israeli because that's the nationality. And again, the nuances that exist in that area in terms of geopolitics. Uh, yes, I can agree that that religion has been used by by those who were sent there on ships uh, after 1948 and and literally told people get out of the neighborhood, it's now ours. That type of behavior at any point in time that is done, imagine that being done right now, right? That the Mexicans move up into Texas and not just look for somewhere to live, but start knocking on doors and telling people you gotta get out.
Of course, in
Would that not
1948, there was
lead
another side of that.
would that not lead to fundamental resentment and conflict?
There, there is certainly truth that that Palestinians were the Arabs living in Palestine were there, and then they weren't. But there is another
I
side
say
of
genetically
the story,
those
which
people
is
are Canaanites and always been there. Like we refer to them as Arabs, and I say no, those are Palestinians. Those are they have distinct genetic markers from people from the Arabian Peninsula, right? They're distinct genetic markers that they're Canaanites and they've always been there, right? Whatever they call themselves today, Palestinian, whatever religion they practice today, those people have always been there.
In
Like
in
they
in
never left.
1800, the population of what is of Jordan, Palestine, both of those, was 400,000 in 1800. And today today I think just Israel itself is around 7 million. So I mean there was an enormous buildup of population between 1800 until today. As far as 1948 goes, there are newspaper stories from that time where the various Arab states told the people, the Arab Palestinians, to leave the area in order not to be caught up in the war which was going to begin between the frontline Arab states and the new Jewish state.
Yeah,
And
Yes,
those
I
was
understand that
those was the
because
Jews that
uh,
was threatening.
because
Those are
uh,
the
uh, uh,
Jews doing all the
Egypt
threatening.
Egypt is the Arab state of Egypt. But those people, when you look at their genetics, they've always been there. And I'm gonna double down. The Palestinians are the Canaanites. Their genetic markers, they've always been there. They didn't go
Some of
nowhere.
them, but some of them came in from other parts of the Turkish Empire. They were settled there in the same way that Mark Rothschild started his colony.
When were they
It,
settled there?
well, I mean, at the same time,
Which
you had
same time?
settlers from the Ottoman Empire, from various parts of the Ottoman Empire, who were sent to Palestine to balance the Jewish population that Mark Rothschild
Was
was
bringing
letting
in.
in, was bringing in as part of the agricultural economies to try to help poor Eastern European Jews. And the Ottomans sold the land to Mark Rothschild, and Martha Rothschild had no intention of creating a Jewish state. It was simply a charitable effort to try to help his Eastern European uh, people who were facing persecution in Poland and
Ex-
parts of Russia.
exactly. No, no. You just decide a whole group of Eastern Europeans, whatever religion they want to identify as, born and raised in Eastern Europe. Now you go, boom, here. Here you go, boom. This, yup, yours. Huh? Like that's going to create conflict. Now, this country being a part of of an Arab nation at this point, because these people are Muslimized or they have accepted the religion of Muslim, doesn't mean that they left from where they was at any given point in time. And we could play with the numbers, but the core and the foundation of what was there was being supplanted, right?
Well,
They were
they
being
were going
moved out of
on
their
both sides.
territory, which they lived for forever. Those 400,000 in that little area, which didn't need more people, they were there genetically the same people up until today, the Canaanites. They were
But
there from
but
when?
But there were also a number of Jews who had never left, even though they were chased out of there.
Exact.
In
Yep.
in the time
Yep.
of
I'm not
they were
saying that.
chased out of there the last time by Bar Kokhba in 134 A.D. when there were repeated depopulations of Jews, people with Canaanite descent who were deported and made slaves in Rome and then dispersed all throughout the Roman Empire and many other places. And then the final depopulation in the Roman times came under Bar Kokhba in 134 A.D. When the Rabbi Akiva proclaimed Bar Kokhba the Messiah, which he wasn't, and the whole thing ended in the famous suicide at Masada, and when the last of the resistance to Rome was crushed in 134. And then they removed the remaining, as much of the remaining Jewish population as they could. But over the centuries, Jews would return to study the Torah and live in Jerusalem and to be there. So there was never a complete depopulation of the Jewish
No, and it
population.
was never a problem until when?
Well, then in the 19th century, Mark Rothschild began to start agricultural colonies for Eastern European Jews to come and work the land.
Exactly. Stop right there. Don't. No. Rachel had the right to just decide. You know what? We're gonna put some people over there. This is the root of the problem. We talk about this stuff as if it was just he had the right to do that. He was just being nice to some his Eastern European buddies, and he
But
just
he
shipped
didn't.
them up
But he
and put them.
didn't. But he
No,
didn't
this
go.
is the root of the problem. We gloss over that as if that's not a problem.
But they bought the land legally. I
But
mean,
the land legally from who? The Palestinians that were there.
they bought the land from the Ottomans who controlled the area. The Ottomans owned the land, and they were low on cash, so they sold the land to Mark Rothschild, and then
So,
Mark
so
Rothschild
two, so two,
settled
so
Eastern
two
European Jews.
conquering nations, the Ottoman Empire, the Arab expansion, and and Rothschild just decided, you know what, I'm gonna sell this piece of land. And we don't understand where this conflict.
Well, I mean, they had
I
the
live
they
on a
had the right to
Caribbean
sell,
island that is ran by the Dutch.
right?
The Dutch decide in Holland, you know what, we're going to sell this neighborhood to the Germans. And the Germans come in and decide we need to get out because you know what, the Dutch sold us this piece of your island to engage in some agricultural development because you know what, Germany is running low on food and the Dutch was being so kind. And we bombed the hell out of the Germans. And the Dutch sent down their reinforcement and they fortified the German town that they established with the high tech military shit. And they conquer more and more territory. They push us more and more in a corner, and they build settlements. They bulldoze my grandmother's house.
But it's
They
a
kick
little
my
different. It's
father,
not. It's not
and and
nearly
and
that simple.
expect there not to be a war. Like who? How?
But it's a
There's
lot
no
more complicated
justification
than
for
that.
what is going on there.
It's a lot more complicated than that because the Ottomans started to sell to Jews, and then the Arabs started to protest the sale of the land to Jews. So the Ottomans, in order to strengthen the Muslim and Arab position, began to encourage settlement by people from elsewhere in the Ottoman Empire, from to also come to Palestine and to settle and to gather. So you have two groups of settlements. You have a relatively small group of Jews and a much larger settlement of people from elsewhere in the Ottoman Empire who also came into the area to settle. And the Ottomans began to restrict the Jews from buying land, began to disallow any additional land sales. So it got started in the 1870s when the Ottomans realized the Jews were coming in. They stopped it. Well, then comes World War One, and in World War One, the British are going to war with the Ottomans, and so they and so then they so they're in the third year of a war. They're not winning. They had the absolute shit kicked out of them in Gallipoli. They weren't winning in Turkey. They weren't winning in France. They were looking around. for how they could have an advantage in that war. And so at that point, Arthur Balfour, who was a former serving prime minister of the United Kingdom in 1900 to 1905 or 6, and who was by then in 1917 the foreign minister, got together with other members of the cabinet, and they wrote a little note to Lord Rothschild, which said, His Majesty's government view with favor the establishment of a national Jewish homeland. This, notwithstanding, should not interfere with the existing population, and we wish you to take note of this. And so Rothschild, when you see who it's addressed to, you understand what it's about. They need money for the war, and they want the Rothschilds to put more money into it for them, and they wanted to spin off the Jewish support from within Palestine to the British. And so they actually succeeded in everything they did. They made the same offer to the Arabs through that famous English operative Lawrence of Arabia, whose real name was Harris. They got them to have a revolt in Arabia, and they got 2 or 3 Jewish battalions to go to the British side in 1917. And so within a very short time of the declaration of the Balfour Declaration, they had Jewish soldiers fighting against the Turks. They had Arab soldiers fighting against the Turks. And General Allenby had his famous victory in Jerusalem in 1917.
Hey, brother Chip, is this safe to say when you say Jewish and the Arab? Is it safe to say that these all were the same goddamn type of people?
No, they're different people. The Eastern Europeans, the original settlers in Israel, were sort of socialists, barely, more or less irreligious socialists. They weren't religious at all, but they were very much interested in not being persecuted in Eastern Europe, and they were interested in the economic and advantages in living in what is now Israel.
So pretty much they just usurp these people's land. We can
Well,
talk openly.
again, not
The
that simple.
Palestinians were caught in the middle of it. They had no say in what was happening geopolitically around. You had
And
these people
again,
come in,
it's not
uproot
nearly that
most
simple.
of them, force them out of their territory, and we're expecting these people not to go to war. Like,
There
like
again, it's
who
not
would
that
expect
simple.
that? I painted a perfect scenario.
Well, you
Geopolitically,
painted an
the Dutch
overly
sell
simple
the
scenario.
Dutch sell for whatever piece of whatever reason 2 neighborhoods in my country, right? And I'm a Dutch island. Yet it's my country, separate from whatever the Dutch state says. And the
Hey,
Dutch
Uncle Ed.
state decided they're gonna sell this neighborhood. And we could talk about the Dutch had an agreement with the and you're forgetting they got people living right here and we're not going for none of it. The Dutch, the Germans that come and bulldoze the neighborhood and just decide that this is theirs, they are going to get fought generation after generation, especially if they insist on oppressing the people that are here on top of it. Not
Hey,
only
Uncle
usurp
said,
the land, but
Uncle said,
oppress the people as well.
Uncle said,
Again,
when you
it's
said
more
that they
complicated than
always
that.
been there, you was talking about the Canaanite. Were you trying to say that everybody in that area Canaanite?
I'm saying,
That's the part
I'm
that's the
saying the
part that is more
Palestinians, the
complicated.
Palestinians, the Palestinians, they never went nowhere. We keep creating a scenario as if this was a barren piece of land, and we got 2 equally rightfully people fighting for this piece of land. That's some bullshit.
Again, it's more complicated than that. You have an initial
You
population of
guys and
Jews, very
Europeans
small,
coming in there at a certain point in time, usurping these people land based on geopolitics that had nothing to do with the people
but
that
you
was
also
actually
have,
there. We can
you
talk
also,
around it and get as sophisticated as we want because we do not want to say this, we do not want to admit this is the last branch of white supremacy in full display. What these Eastern Europeans doing in the Middle East when these people were there from the beginning of the whole shebang.
it's and but they're white on both sides. You have the Arabs are white, the Jews are white. You have Sephardics who you have Sephardic Jews who are
We keep
brown.
skipping
You have
over.
Arabs
We
who are
keep
brown. You have a
skipping
mix
over
of
the
everything.
Palestinians that are throwing rocks. We keep skipping over the Palestinians that are getting bombed. These people ain't went nowhere, ain't come from nowhere, have always been there.
They
I'm gonna
they
keep, I'm gonna
also
keep,
are
I'm
immigrants.
gonna keep, I'm gonna keep repeating that. Everybody else is killing the people that have always been there. The people that
They
have
also
always been there
immigrated.
have been moved out of their land, have been forced
But they
into a
always do.
specific area, and
But
we're
they
gonna
also
skip over
immigrated.
that and say it's more complicated than that. When
It
at
is.
the end of the day, that's how easy it is for the
It
people
is
on the
not that
ground.
easy because you have immigrants from the Ottoman Empire who were also settled there. You have people from Turkey. You have people from different from Egypt. You have people uh, from Iraq. You have people from all over the Ottoman Empire who were also settled in that area at the same time the Jews were settling there. So you have a small population in 1800 mostly connected to the coast. Haifa, for example, which was where most of the population was living. Tel Aviv was almost brand new, but Haifa was the old city. Jerusalem was the old city, and you had very little of anything in between, and you had people coming in on both sides. You had Jews, agricultural colony coming in until they were stopped. You had the Ottomans moving people in until the English came in, and and then when Turkey lost the war, the United Kingdom received the mandate from the new League of Nations. But they made promises to the Jews, which they didn't keep. They made promises to the Arab, which they didn't keep. The whole idea was for the British and the French to divide Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Palestine, and put it all under those two governments' control and stiff both sides.
Hey, brother Chip.
Yes,
Is this safe to say that Israel and the Jews, what they doing over there to the Palestinians is out of line and out of pocket? Is it safe to say that?
again, it's a very the whole thing is a very very complicated long term thing, and some of it is exactly what Cedric says. Some of it is that two people want the land, but there's also behind that another 1,400 years of hatred between the Jewish settlers in the Hijaz in Saudi Arabia and the Muslims. That Muslims in the Hijaz pushed the Jews out under from the earliest days of Islam, pushed them out and was completely against anybody except Muslims ruling in areas where Muslims controlled. So you have the idea of the Dar al Islam, the reign of Islam, and the Dar al Harb, the reign of war. And the Dar al Islam is where Muslims are in control, and the reign of war is where others are in control. And then you have what they call jihad al-talib, which is offensive jihad, where if you have an emir or a caliph, every year you have to proclaim to people Islam, and by proclaiming to people Islam, they have three choices. They can either join Islam, they can pay jizya, which is a punitive tax to make them to make them join Islam, or they can die. And those were the three choices that Islam traditionally gave non-Muslims in Saudi Arabia and any other place that Muslims traditionally lived in until they no longer had the power militarily to enforce that. And so you have that added to the whole story, that it wouldn't matter what the Jews would, what Israel would do. If you're talking about Hamas, it wouldn't matter. Israel could destroy their army tomorrow, and the first thing Hamas would do is kill as many of them as they could, because they, as part of their charter, is a hadith, a saying of Muhammad, which says that in the last days there will be a Jew hiding behind every tree and rock, and the tree and the rock will say to the Muslim, "O Muslim, there is a Jew hiding behind you. Go and kill him." And that is part of the original Hamas charter of 1988. And they've never repudiated it. That the goal of Hamas is to fulfill this Islamic command by getting rid of as many Jews as possible. So that makes it much more complicated. It's not a case of just dividing land anymore. It's who's going to live and who's going to die.
Then we made a full 360-degree right back to religious nonsense.
Well, it's what it is.
Brother, Rambo Yappa Chopper, how you feel about what's going on in Gaza and Israel, between Gaza and Israel?
Damn, that shit crap. Been looking at that the last day or so. But oh man, I think that shit just part of it, man. War gonna always be part of it. I ain't gonna lie, I don't really know like why it's going on for real. Exactly. I ain't see the
But
I
all the
really find it sad that
got it, Uncle said you got it.
religion religion has such power still over the psyche of people that they can't realize that they're just human. And all of this nonsense is completely and totally unnecessary on either side, right? At the end of the day, regardless of the geopolitics, um, these things can be worked out. But you can't have a conversation if you fundamentally see this other human being as less or human or different than you, so much so that they need to be exterminated. That doesn't create an environment, and it's anti-human instinct. Again, our ability to create and navigate large social networks is a result of our evolution. So that's why when we see this type of cognitive stagnation, we tend to not understand it, because there is no way that I have a fundamental, like, I don't understand hatred of a people's. I can have anger towards an individual, but hatred of entire race of people. That shit's crazy to me. But again, I grew up in the Caribbean. My circumstances and my relationship to other races has always been different. You know, like we come from multiple colored families. All of our families go from white to black. Um, we a lot of us go to Europe for our education. White people are not alien. We have a huge Chinese population. We have a huge Indian population. So, so we're shoulder and shoulder in the school benches, and at the end of the day, being in such a small environment, we're all forced to assimilate to one culture. So we all pretty much sound the same. We eat the same foods. You know what I mean? There's a such a interaction that you do not see other people as other people anymore. So I just can't understand that mindset.
So when Brother Chip said the Arabs are white and the Jews are white, what I was trying to get at earlier was these are the same looking kind of people fighting against each other. Like Jew,
Same damn thing. To
a Jew
us, we're
and a
the
Muslim.
same thing.
You got it. With the Canaanite, Brother said you brought it out.
Yeah, they all Canaanites. They all Shemites. They all got the same genetic markers here and there, a few more, a few less, right? And then you're gonna get the distinct group of people that identify as Jews gonna have the Ashkenazis gonna have particular markers, but they all come from the same area of confluence. They all come from that area there. That's who they are. They all come from that area. But the segregation is along religious lines primarily, because before there was these established cultures and religions, this corridor between Northeast Africa and the Arabian Peninsula, these people were intermingling uh, all the time. It was just a matter of fact. Even in the Bible, it speaks of Abraham coming uh, through southern Arabia up into northeast Africa by means of passing through Levant area. You know what I mean? So these people have always been intermingling, and they're a distinct population and distinct group because of that intermingling. But these are all the same goddamn people.
So when they say when did the all right, so y'all kept bringing up European. Y'all kept saying somebody bought some land, a European bought some land. That's what y'all was saying.
Mark
Rothschild,
Rothschild.
who is a European Jew, and
So
this is
he
also based on history and these wars, etc., that dispersed the Jewish population throughout Europe.
so this just a different white person coming into the same type of white people, or is this like a this the same type of person, or are we looking at something different coming into somewhere else, buying trying to switch it up? How we look?
At this point in time, these group of people are distinctly European in feature. Primarily by their names, you can identify them. Weinstein. If you see a Weinstein from Donald Trump, can you distinguish who's a Jew and not? It's by means of that name we identify them, but not phenotypically. But a lot of the Israelis are, when you look at them, they look like Europeans to most of us. And then there are these Arab-looking Jews, and my brother mentioned it. Those that never left, they've always been in Palestine. They've always been in Jerusalem. They never left. They've always been there. Like so, so he's actually making a factual point. I didn't want to run past that. There's a group of Jews that have never stepped a foot outside of Jerusalem. They've always been in that area. So so again, these are all the same people, and it is a religious distinction. At a certain point in time, everybody broke off, and you got the Arab expansion, and a certain amount of these people became Arabized, adopted the Muslim faith. But in terms of ethnicity, there ain't much difference.
So when they talk about and Bo, you could jump in whenever you want to. When they talk about the let me see how I want to go about this. When they talk about the Canaanites, this Canaanites, are these Uncle said, can you give me the origin of the Canaanites?
Well, um, that's a biblical term as far as I know it. But when I say that, these are the people that existed in that area. That the area was called Canaan before it came Palestine. Now the name of the area changed, but people don't just disappear out of an area, right? Same thing as Jerusalem, and this was the area that the Jews were. The people don't completely disappear out of the area, although there was mass exodus by means of war and people being captive and taken out of the land, etc., dispersed into Europe by means of Rome. There still remains a group of people that stays in their ancestral land and continues on with the traditions, whether it be a small group or not, whether the geopolitics of the area changed because at a certain time Jerusalem was controlled by England. Doesn't mean that the Jews that were there stopped being Jews, stopped practicing their culture. So they remain there. So eventually when Palestine, when Canaan became Palestine, the Canaanites became Palestinians. They didn't go nowhere. Now they were eventually conquered by the Ottoman Empire and became Arabized or became Muslim, but it was the same group of people that were there. They didn't go nowhere. Now later on, based on settlements, because they are part of an empire, other people, like my brother explained, from the same empire that they are part of now, came in and started inhabiting the area. Right, they're under different governorship and etc. But the people that were there didn't go nowhere.
Brother Chip, you want to jump in on that?
Well, the name Palestine comes from the word Philistia. The Philistia was the name of the sea people uh, who came into the area from possibly from Scythia, from Asia Minor, and who came down in boats, and they had a five-city confederation along the coast of what is now Israel, and they in the biblical times turned out to be the most persistent enemy of the settlement of Jews, not Jews in this case, Israelites, Hebrews, in the 14, 13, 1200s, 1100s. And the war between the Philistines, the five-city confederation of Philistia, and the Israelites continued until late into the reign of King David, when the Hebrews finally took control of the Philistine cities. But the name Palestine is taken directly from these people who also came into the area through ships. These sea people, the Philistines, and their 5 city confederations, also tried to invade Egypt, and they were pushed out. And then when they were pushed out of Egypt, they ended up settling the coast of what is now Israel. And the name Palestine comes from them.
The Egyptians had a settlement in Canaan, in Canaan, a vessel in that area also, and their shipbuilders were also stationed in that region. That's where Egypt got its shipbuilding.
They got their ships. Everybody in that area got the ship from the Phoenicians, including the Israelites. The Israelites, the Greeks, the Egyptians, they all got their trading, their ships, and a great deal of merchandise from the Phoenicians who inhabited what is present day Lebanon today, Lebanon, Syria.
Yeah, now we're going way back.
I got a biblical question, Brother Chip.
Not my expertise.
You hear me, Brother Chip?
Listening.
I got a biblical question. So when the
Okay.
Bible says a virgin will have a son named Emmanuel, ain't that a verse?
Right.
And so it ended up in the New Testament, and it ended up being a virgin giving birth to Jesus. Can you break that down for me?
Well, the original context is the original context is a war between Assyria and Judea, and so the king Ahaz is very hard pressed by his enemies in Israel and in Damascus. And so there's those 2 kingdoms which are going after Judea, and then behind all that are the Assyrians, who are also threatening to come down. And so the prophet Isaiah tells him, as a sign that you're going to make it, that a young woman is going to conceive. It's not necessarily a virgin. It's an alma. It's a woman of marriageable age is going to conceive, and bear a son, and you shall call his name Emmanuel, which is God with us. So the child that is to be born to your royal house is going to be a successor to you, and a sign to you that God has not forgotten you. And so when he is born, you should call him Emmanuel, which means God is with us. So it was a sign that Judah was going to be okay. That although all these other kingdoms were coming against it in the 8th century BC, that God was going to be faithful and protect them against all this tremendous pressure that was aimed against them. So that's the original context.
So the king was gonna have a baby with one of his women,
Right.
pretty much.
And did.
So the prophet was telling him, "Don't worry, go have sex."
The prophet said you're going to be okay. The prophet
Because
said you're going to be okay.
if he's gonna be born to the royal house that the king is going to name him, then he's most likely gonna be the son of the king, right?
Yes.
That's my point.
Yes, that is the point. But this became a continuing issue when the kingdom of Israel collapsed in the time of the Babylonians. The royal line died when Zedekiah when Zedekiah, the uncle of the last legitimate king of Israel, was sort of took over the power as as a vassal of Babylon, and then he rebelled against Babylon, and then Babylon came down and besieged them, captured Uncle Zedekiah, put out his eyes, and took him into exile. The young king, who had only ruled for about 3 months in Jerusalem, Jehoiakim, was taken to Babylon and was made one of the captive kings in Israel. He never regained power. He never came back to Israel. He died in Babylon. He was, I think, freed late in his life, but he never left Babylon, and he died there. So that was the end of the kingly line of Israel. There was never there was never a Jewish king of Judea or a king of Israel after that. So then the question is the promise of an eternal heir to the throne of David dead, or is there a real alternative to that? Well, the Christian, when Jesus came, he claimed to be from the royal line, and he claimed to be born of a virgin and a successor to the defunct line of kings in Israel.
Let's correct that statement just a little bit.
Yeah, you got to slow down, brother. Chill. We got to
what was written. What was written about Jesus, because there is no evidence to substantiate a Jesus. That is no. So according to the story.
Let me piggyback on that also. Not just that, but we also got to understand that the damn name was wrong. So we can't call him a prophet no more. He got the damn name wrong.
Well, I mean, the idea was,
did the king have a son? Did the king have a son named Emmanuel?
Well, I'm not sure what the son's actual name was, but the idea was that he would be the promise that things were going to be all right, because the throne of David was promised an eternal throne.
Yes, my question is, did the king have a son? And if he had a son, was his name Emmanuel?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so that story falls apart there.
Yeah, so that
but
prophet,
it doesn't matter.
That prophet was blaspheming.
It doesn't matter. The important thing, both in the first instance and the second instance, isn't the name of the kid. It was the promise of God. That was what was important.
Brother Chip, it sounds like you said then that Emmanuel bullshit died down. Then Jesus came, and this, even though it's a contradiction, even though the name ain't right, this is Yahshua. We gonna praise this nigga now. It sounds like you swept a lot of shit under the rug in order to keep the lineage going.
The idea is that the promises of God have not failed. That's the heart of the issue.
We gotta not forget this. This is just this is a story of one group of people telling the story to themselves about themselves. So it is embellished. It is some fictional, some fact. It is the creative narrative of a people telling the story about themselves, and primarily using Greek writing style, right, to tell this story. So there is fiction and there is fact, and it is that there is more fiction than that there is fact. This Jesus affair, there is no way in my logical frame of reference is any of it gonna make sense. It's a two-edged sword which all biblical people will lose. Either your Jesus has no Y chromosome, which I don't believe, or your Jesus is just a man and everything about him It's just natural. There ain't no
Now I don't.
resurrection.
Now
There ain't no
I
wine.
don't know
There ain't
how
no
much
bunch
of
of
this.
bread.
I don't know how much of this is true or not, but I have heard people talking about um, genetic tests on ancient blood found on the Shroud of Turin that
Nope.
supposedly,
Stop. No, 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 no. Mm-mm. Shroud of
you may,
Turin, 1600s, not even remotely in the same time frame. Debunk nonsense. Nope. Mm-mm.
no, not. It was not necessarily because when they
No,
did,
we're not doing that. No,
We
no,
didn't
no,
have
no.
radiocarbon
Mm-mm.
dating in the 1600s, brother Chip.
Mm-mm.
well,
Mm-mm.
no, but you also have an intense amount of overlay on the shroud from being in an ecclesiastical setting, candles being burned, different
These
environmental.
are
things.
apologetics arguments that have long been since debunked. And no,
There
we're not.
was
No.
there was a test which I did look at, by the way, and an Italian. There was an Italian group that did a study within the last, I would say, 5 or 6, within the less than the last 10 years, and they did a separate study on the another piece of the shroud, and they came up with a date of the second century in the 100 AD, which is within the range of the within the range of the margin of error. And but it was in Italian. I read this was put into a group of people who were
Chip, you
very
believe
skeptical.
in God, Chip?
Yes.
Okay, I understand. That's why the apologetics. No, Chip. No, we're not. No, we're not gonna do that.
Well,
No,
no,
we're
I would
not.
simply,
We're not.
I don't know. I would say
No,
this, I do not
no, we're
know.
not. We're not. We're not. We're not.
However,
The shroud of Turin. Jesus, virgin, resurrected. What? What? Miracles? What? God? What? What? How? Substantiate. What's the evidence for God? Any of them? Let's start with the God before we get to Jesus. What is the evidence for another God? How do you substantiate the claim of a God? Any of them?
well, I mean, there is, you're not going to find proof of anything.
Start. No. I didn't ask you for proof. I asked
Okay.
you, how do you substantiate? What's your
How
evidence?
can you
Evidence is
substantiate
not
this?
proof.
All right.
What's your evidence?
All right. Well, um, you can start out with that. Let's see, this is going to get a little complicated. You can start out with saying that everything which begins to exist has a cause.
So you're gonna give me philosophical, and now you're giving me the theological argument. I didn't ask you for an argument. I asked you for evidence. You can give me the cosmological, the theological, ontological. You can give me all the philosophical arguments, which have all been debunked. But I didn't ask you for none of those. I simply asked you for what's your evidence for any of these claims.
You asked for the evidence. Well, I mean,
Mhm.
the evidence comes along with the argument. You have to have
No, no, no.
argument
Hey,
and evidence go together.
No, I
Uncle
said
said,
you're gonna
Uncle
give
said, he
me a
basically,
philosophical argument,
Uncle
but
said,
I ask you for evidence.
Uncle
And
said,
evidence you just
Uncle
present.
said,
This is the evidence.
Uncle said, this what he's saying. This what he's saying, Uncle said.
I know exactly what he's saying. And
He's
then
saying
that's why
everything got
we're
a
gonna do this dance.
he's saying everything got a purpose. So let's break it down with him. Let's
No,
show him
no,
how
no, no,
everything.
no. No, no. You see, you never acquiesce to a faulty premise. First of all, I asked for evidence, and I didn't ask for philosophical arguments, because at the end of the day, arguments will never lead to evidence. So I simply ask for evidence, and I already know the theological, the argument he's using, which is the theological argument, right? And then you got you got the all the other arguments, right, which have long since been debunked, and the
No,
claim he's
they may have been
making
argued.
the claim he's
They're not
making,
they're not
the claim
debunked.
is
They're
the claim
disputed.
he's making, the claim he's making is fallacious, because no, not everything that starts to exist necessarily needs a cause. Because when we go to the quantum spectrum, the appearance of a particle comes out of nothing, and there is no reason and there is no cause.
But but taken as
No,
a
no,
whole,
no, no,
there
no.
is.
I just debunked the claim
No, you
that
didn't. You didn't because
causality. No, a
at
particle
a point
appears.
level,
A
there's
particle appears. A particle appears out of a field with no cause.
well,
This is a scientific fact. No cause required.
we do not. Well, part of that is we simply don't know. It's too small. It's too
So,
discrete
so
to
your
make out.
incredulity is not will not substantiate or make the claim that I'm making, which you can look up. Particles appear out of nowhere for no reason. Nothing's caused. Now, your incredulity to that doesn't make that less of a fact.
Well,
Uh,
one thing is appearance, and the other thing is reality. When you have a combination of things which appear to appear and disappear from nothing, yet taken as a whole, they form something which actually is and has appeared
brother,
and is
brother Chip,
consistent.
are you saying, brother Chip, are you saying that everything has a purpose?
Well, everything probably does have a purpose, but we don't
Or are you saying,
necessarily know
That's
what
a
it all
different
is.
argument. That's a different argument.
or are you saying
He's
everything has
using
a
the
cause?
causality, everything that starts to exist has a cause, and I'm saying no, science has already debunked that claim, because particles come into existence without a cause.
Well, I think that we simply don't know that that's the case.
Now you're making a claim of incredulity, and that's simply not true. Because you don't know it doesn't mean that it's not true. You can look it up right now. Furthermore, Furthermore, the in string theory and in string theory, I think it's string theory, it actually hypothesizes that this coming into existence of one particular particle is what sparked the initial expansion of the universe, which we know as the Big Bang. So there was no cause actually.
Brother Chip, can you give us another um evidence for the existence of God?
Well, we're looking, we're looking at a lot of different things in this thing. We're not what what we have is we do not know we do not know whether there is a God or not. We do not know whether things do or do whether things do or do not necessarily have a cause.
I like that answer, brother Chip. I love that answer, brother Chip. One step closer. I love that answer.
So, what gives you reason to believe that there is a God if we do not know there is a God? Because what we do not know, we do not know. As a matter of fact, the concept of God says that God exists outside of reality. And there is no way that we can actually know about anything outside of reality. Why
Well,
I say Why I
Well,
say the
what it is
conceptualization
that
of a God.
what it is that is that there are things that we are not necessarily in position to know.
Such
Uh,
as
if we, for example, let's say we lived in a two-dimensional world.
no, but
I
wait
mean,
a minute.
here's the argument. Here's the argument. We live in a two-dimensional world. We're all part of line world or square world. Um, and we're asking ourselves, do you believe that there is something outside of line or square world which is affecting and causing this to be? And one person will say, well, I've never seen anything. I've never experienced anything. I don't know anything outside of the piece of what we are here in line world. They say there is such a thing as an artist, but I've never seen one. I've never seen him work. So I think I don't believe in the thing called an artist because there's no evidence for anything outside our line world.
Have you ever seen God work?
Well, that's why I say if we're in line world,
No,
if
you
we are
see,
in the
these
equivalent,
are
if we are in the
No,
so
equivalent
brother
of
Chip.
line world,
so
Brother
please,
Chip,
you
easy
just
question.
when I was quiet, I listened to that whole fallacious argument, which makes absolutely no sense because we exist within reality, which is everything within space time. So if anything outside of space-time was to interact with space-time, it would leave evidence thereof. So now you're telling me that within space-time, there is an aspect of a dimension within space-time that we are not aware of. There is some
I think that's a
plane,
fair
you're
assessment. I
making
think
the
that's a
claim
fair
that there
assessment.
is some dimension that exists outside of the four dimensions that constitute space-time that we're not aware of, and it is within or in this dimension that a God supposedly exists. This is the claim you're making by
That is the
making an
claim I'm
analogy.
making. Yes.
So now then that means the basic tenets of understanding what space-time is and how the four dimensions that we exist in, that is all that there actually is in terms of dimensions. Furthermore, if you look at what dimensions mean, dimensions would give you the size and shape of. And then there are the dimensions within the concept of reality, which is the three dimensions, which is depth, height, length, and fourth dimension, which is time, right? That's
Right.
it. So now you would have to quantify what dimension there would be that we cannot uh, 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 quantify or analyze by means of the natural processes which we use to analyze reality.
Well, you mentioned string theory, which is suggesting other dimensions.
No, it says nothing about other dimensions. It makes no reference at all to this thing called other dimension.
Let's see.
I just want to say this. I just want to say this. If I was God, brother Chip looking it up right now. If I was God, but Uncle said, I know you've been to a church before. You know how we get to the church and they say this is God's house.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
We could be goddamn anywhere in the world. We go to a church, they say this is God's house. Now you got two of the same goddamn people fighting over God's land. Now you tell me God gonna go crazy by his church house, gonna make you wear these funny clothes when you walk through the doors at his church. But you telling me he ain't go intervene with two motherfuckers fighting over his land since the which I said 1916?
If you had any idea the vastness of the universe, you would understand the insignificance of this little blue dot that we call home, the one from which we have no real ability to escape. It is insignificant in the larger scheme of things. It is insignificant within our own galaxy. So to imagine that all of space time and everything within it was created just for this insignificant speck of dust within the vastness of the universe. If you actually think that on this speck of irrelevant dust within the vastness of the universe, a species that is a mere micro dot, half a quarter of a micro millisecond in the vastness of time would be relevant to any god. That is only a testament to the ignorance and the arrogance of the human being.
But really, the size has nothing to do with it. I mean, you have infinite, you have very very small, and you have very very large, and you have very very in between. So to assess the importance of something isn't to say something is big or something is small.
I didn't say importance, I said insignificance.
Well, there
Again,
again, to
to
who?
to do, to be
Who?
able to exactly, to who would you be significant if you understood the insignificance on the grand scheme of things?
Well, there again, it's not our concern to be either significant or insignificant. It's not our job description.
It's only our job. We're the one engaged in this exercise.
We're the ones engaged in the exercise. So it doesn't
So
matter to
again,
say this is big or
again,
this is small.
the whole idea of our significance and importance is only based on our ignorance to the insignificance that we actually represent. We give ourselves this significance as to even conceptualize that there is a God that plays that has even the remotest interest in what we are doing.
That,
That's all and only within the imagination of human beings. That is because we give ourselves this significance, and we give ourselves this significance because we lack the understanding of the actual insignificance of ourselves, the speck of irrelevant dust that we play on time, that
we
we are.
could be absolutely nothing, or we could be
There is no could. This is not speculation.
of course
Have
it is.
you ever, have you ever, have you ever taken a virtual tour of the vastness of the universe? Do you understand how insignificant, how small, and how microscopic our galaxy is within the vastness of space time, our universe? When you
But
can
but
conceptualize these things,
completely
when you
irrelevant.
start to conceptualize these things, yes, it is relevant. Then you would understand that the significance that we give ourselves as human beings is only and solely directly related to the inability to conceptualize our insignificance on the grand scheme of things. And you're making my point by doubling down. We only think God created all of this for us. We're humans, we're special, we're significant. God, who exists outside of space time, is up there micromanaging what is a speck of dust
No, I
within
don't
the
necessarily
vastness
think
of
that
this
he
galaxy.
doesn't need
To,
to
to,
micromanage. I mean,
to,
he set it all up. It's set
and
up.
your evidence for that is what?
Well, that things appear that things appear to make sense.
Things appear to make sense.
Things appear to make sense.
What
That
appears to make sense?
well, I mean that you can trust that you can trust some of the impressions of your brain that you can
Really? No, we
you
can't.
can.
Do nature
No,
make
we
sense?
not. No, we absolutely can't. We know that our five senses will fool us every time. We absolutely understand the fallibility of our five senses. We know and appreciate the limitations thereof.
But you can create a mathematical form. People can create a mathematical formula which explains reality. I mean, if it weren't supposed to, if the world was supposed to be completely incomprehensible, that we would have absolutely no idea what was going on. We couldn't trust anything. We
Um,
couldn't trust in science either.
um,
We couldn't trust in the results of a scientific experiment either.
no, that's absolutely a logical claim. Because of our senses being unreliable, we develop tools, right, by which means we can accurately gauge and predict our environment around us through repeatable experiments that produce the reliable results, which our five senses couldn't do.
But the
And
people who
science
manage
is
the tools
counterintuitive.
interpret the
Science
results.
is counterintuitive. Our ability to acquire knowledge and understanding is a process of the brain, a completely natural process. It is the same way that dolphins develop of sonar in their environment as a way to navigate the environment. Highly sophisticated ability to bounce sound off of objects and understand their environment. And this doesn't attest to a God. And again, the subatomic world, if anyone says that they understand quantum physics, they are lying because it operates so counterintuitive to anything that we can understand that we're still not able to unify the two aspects of physics, which is the quantum and the atomic and the subatomic world. So this claim that our senses are reliable and that everything operates based how would you put it, logical? No, it is science which has provided us with the tools by which means we take things for granted now. That's why we don't freak out anymore when we have thunderstorm and not think that the gods are running amok up in the heavens and these kind of weird stuff. Science provided us with that, not belief in any God. God didn't provide us with any understanding thereof. God left us alone for 300,000 years. We almost went extinct twice. Multiple species of us disappeared.
There's no guarantee
And
that that
then,
won't happen to
and
us.
then, and then 2,000 years ago, God shows up as if he was there the whole time. That makes any sense?
That's
And God shows up at the point that man develops the ability to articulate his imagination. Imagine that. Before that, it was cave art and rocks and stones and weird stuff and sacrifices and then man developed the ability to write and the ability to transfer his thoughts to paper. And all of a sudden, boom, there's your
Well,
God.
it took a long. It took.
that
I
Gutenberg
think people
press.
are inherent. I think people were inherently religious, even though we don't necessarily see that in the. We don't
And
see that
the
necessarily in the Bible.
human, the human brain is hardwired to be spooked out. It's easy to believe in God. You know how easy it is? Close your eyes right now. Think of someone dead. Have a conversation with them. Hear them speaking to you and answer back in your head. That's how easy it is to imagine a God. It's a part of natural evolution. Doesn't make God's real. It is a trick of the brain.
Yeah, that's what when you was talking about the dolphins, that's what I was gonna say. That's a product of evolution, not a product of God.
Yeah, natural selection. Our ability to imagine is innate to human beings. Religion was co-opted. Our innate ability to have a conversation in our heads with third parties. From there to God is easy to imagine. Doesn't make God's real. Nothing about reality substantiates God's. God is a conceptualization of the human mind. Nothing else, nothing more. That's why we have we have thousands of gods. That's why even within the one Western concept, God represents different things to different people, even within the same confinements of a specific branch of a belief. There you go already. That is too much subjectivity to be factual.
Hey, Uncle said, you know about the Gutenberg printing press?
Yep.
Is it true that there wasn't much literacy and in
Before the Gutenberg press,
right.
no.
Okay.
Books were expensive. They were handwritten. So you had to be rich to afford books. You had to be rich to have the time to be educated, or you had to be of the priestly class. So people didn't have books in their homes until the Gutenberg press made books easy and accessible because they were easily manufactured at this point in time.
You
Then
know
we got a
what
literacy
year this
boom.
was? Can you give me the year?
I think it was the 1600s. I'm not sure.
Before that, before that,
15,
1500s.
1500s. Yeah. So,
So
and that's when you got a
No,
boost of
1400s. Sorry, 15th century, 1400s.
yeah. So that's when you got this boost of literacy taking place. And as always, the first and the most popular piece of document that was disseminated amongst the people, the Bible.
good old papyrus.
Well, now
The
you're,
good old
I
Bible.
was just looking. I was just looking early when you talked about there's no dimensions in string theory, and I'm looking here in physics stack exchange, and they're saying they're asking the question why superstring theory needs 9+1 space-time dimensions. So I mean there is a suggestion that
You
however
know
brief it
what's the
was.
space-time dimension?
That's the equation, brother Chip.
You know what's the space-time dimension? Do you know what space-time is?
Well,
Nine space-time dimensions. You know what that means?
I'll explain it then.
9 universes. Space-time equals universe. You have 9 separate dimensions of them. That's 9 separate universes that either appear and disappear or or stay in existence. These are parallel universes. That I knew what you were gonna do, and I'll let you go and do it. This is this, and I said your arguments with regards to reality are all based on incredulity, especially if you're gonna interject science. I know you do not know the science because I hear the misnomers and I hear the fallacies in the use of certain terminologies.
Dimension.
Yeah, like how you try to use two and three dimensions as if we don't exist within four. And there is no other dimension within that four dimension that would encompass all of space time, reality. Everything that happens there in quantum, black holes, dark matter, all of that is physical. All of that is reality. All of that science can account for. Not everything we can explain, but all of it we can account for.
So Uncle
So
said,
now,
"Oh my
go
bad. I'm
ahead,
sorry. Keep going. My
go
bad. Keep
ahead,
going."
go ahead, go ahead.
So when we speak of this Gutenberg printing press, Bo, you can go in. Bo, you can go in after this. I know you got some shit. When we speak of this Gutenberg printing press, is it like I look at the Bible? I look at the Bible as they speaking of real places and real person, places, things, but injecting themselves in it, know what I'm saying, and throwing and doing a time warp. So when I hear 7th century BCE, and then I hear they didn't the Gutenberg printing press didn't come out to the 1400s. Um and then you go back and find a lot of texts. You find out a lot of texts where it was only they only recover half of the text, or they a lot of stuff didn't survive to get the full concept of it. Is it safe to say that with the Gutenberg printing press, that's when you start injecting in fake history, or is it easy to make a book that way when it's that plentiful? Or how you look at that when you hear numbers like 7th century BCE, or you hear numbers like 10th century BCE?
So here's another question from asked from the Physics Stack Exchange. So they're asking, does the random nature of quantum phenomena mean they have no cause, or does the theory say that causes of quantum randomness are unknown? And the argument is that the quantum phenomena are not random. They have been found to obey strict dynamical equations, which are different than classical mechanics. But still, the phenomena are constrained by the bounds given by the solutions to these equations. So, so, so the, so the, so the question is that they have no cause, or that the causes are unknown.
What's the source of that? What you're reading? What's the
Physics
source
Stack
of
Exchange. Physics Stack Exchange.
physics? What?
Stackexchange.com slash
Okay,
questions.
so so that's let's look up what the science says about it, and not an article, random article questioning it without any science behind it. That's not how we do science. O- o- the science says this happens without cause. We have an article here saying, well, does it really happen without cause? Huh? Okay. Does that bring the science into question? What you just read?
Well, I think the whole idea here is that when we observe something, that we affect what we see.
Oh my
That's the fact.
God. Now let me ask you a question. You're talking about the double slit experiment, of course, and the observer effect. Do you know what the observer is when you shoot particles through a slit? Photons. Have you ever seen a photon?
No, I
When
haven't.
you
I don't
observe
think.
a photon with the naked eye?
No.
So what's the observer? in that experiment?
The machine is the observer.
What's the machine? How are these photons measured? Observed.
Yeah, I think, man, brother Chip, you gotta get out of that source, man. You gotta come back to the boxing ring. Get out of that source, brother Chip.
Yeah, he's trying to source this thing in real time, and I could dream this stuff. Because now I can see, and he's continuous to move the goalpost.
Yeah,
And
he
the
going from
fact that I can actually say, "Oh, you're talking about a double slit experiment." Now he's got to go source up and see if he could debunk me. He's swinging 2-0 so far.
now
No, I'm not,
he gonna hit you
no,
with a
I'm not necessarily debunking you, but I mean the effect, but observing does how we observed, how we observe does affect what we see.
No. So this particular hypothesis that you're engaging in is called the observer effect, and it is related to what happens to the wave and particle function when so-called observed. Now, this observer you're referring to in this instant has nothing to do with a conscious agent. It has to do with tools to measure the photons, because you're going to measure photons, because it's photons we're talking about, particles. And the
and the reason,
conclusion from the double slit experiment had nothing to do with observer effect. It had to do with the fact that we realized that light has a dual function.
hey
It's both a particle, it functions both as an individual particle and a wave.
Uncle said you throwing knockout blows. We went from the string theory to the observer effect to the two split, the two we he about to hit you with another scientific theory. That's why I said, brother Chip, just come back to the ring.
And still yet we have no evidence to substantiate any claim of any of the gods throughout history. You see how we haven't opened the Bible at this point yet? We're going to stay right here. Before we can open the Bible, we need to talk about what's your evidence for God. This is how we end this whole Bible discussion before it even starts. Because if you don't got a God, your Bible is worthless.
Man-made, like Scooby-Doo,
Scooby
SpongeBob.
Dooby Doo. Ancient cartoons with flying man and walking on water and man and fishes and talking donkeys and snakes, the whole 9 yards. Man giving birth to women and dying and resurrecting. It's a Marvel comic from 2,000 years ago. Marvel Comics, Superman fly over the Empire State Building. He's faster than a train. These are all things that exist, right? He's faster than a speeding bullet. He works for a newspaper. Doesn't newspaper exist? He goes to New York. Isn't that a real city? What the hell telling me Superman ain't real? He needs power from the sun. The sun is a real thing. I know a woman named Lois. I know another lady named Mrs. Lane. So there must be somebody that named Lois Lane. So Superman must be real.
I know
And
somebody
therefore,
Peter, so
and
they had to be
therefore,
a Peter Parker.
and therefore, and therefore God real. Because if Superman can be real, then there must be a God.
I think one of the quickest way to debunk God is looking at nature. When we look at nature, a damn deer, we could pull up scientific explanations for how a deer can clean up the ecosystem. But a damn deer ain't got no goddamn purpose. An antelope ain't got no goddamn purpose. A gazelle ain't got no goddamn purpose. They
I'm
over
gonna
there
ask
getting
you a better question. What is the purpose of a flea?
Probably,
What is
probably
the
to keep our
purpose of a
population
virus?
down.
What is
Probably
Man,
the
to
what's
keep
the
our
purpose of
purpose
a
of a
population
virus?
down.
cockroach?
What is the purpose of a virus? Like, it even ain't alive. And it just fucks shit up. Like, who would create a virus and tell me that you're good? You're a son of a bitch. Now, if you tell me that nature produces viruses, and viruses are evidence of early evolutionary processes, because these things are basically basically molecules that replicate within a host, right? And showing very simple signs of quote unquote pre-life, right? I can understand that they exist and accept them as part of nature. I can accept that based on weather patterns and the movement of the earth and our relationship to the sun, that we get hurricanes. But why the beep would God create a earth, make it perfect to glorify himself, and put hurricanes and tornadoes on this bitch? The problem of evil for us from a philosophical standpoint. Your God can neither be omniscient, neither omnipotent, and neither the other omnibenevolent,
Omnipresent,
especially
omnipresent.
omnibenevolent, and have child leukemia as a thing. That's not man-made. That's just nature. Why would God do that? Why would a benevolent God create or produce a cancer that is going to allow a child, an innocent child, to suffer? And do not give me no dramatic nonsense about the good that come out of it, the fortification, that daddy's going to love the mommy more, and the next baby they're going to cherish better. God could have come up with a much easier, simpler way to accomplish a cohesive relationship, other than putting a child to suffer with childhood leukemia. That's not omnibenevolent, and that's not omniscient, omnipotent, because either he powerless to stop it, or he willfully do some shit like that, and then either way he lose. So you get to choose. Well, he ain't all of them for sure. And if he ain't all of them, he ain't none of them, because he don't exist. These are 2024 to like 2023. These are silly concepts that hold no basis in logical or rational thinking, since we're using arguments, since we have no evidence.
Brother Chip, get out of Google, Brother Chip. Get out of Google. Come back to the ring. Come back to the fight, Brother Chip. Get out of Google. We need some goddamn help.
Google can't help you.
The damn baby, the baby buffalo, the damn baby, the goddamn baby, the baby deer.
What brother Darkness at?
And I think Brother
He
Douglas
needs
had,
some backup.
I think he had connection issues. Brother Douglas
You know,
Brother
you know how
Douglas,
cruel
we
nature
gonna start
is?
the conversation. We're gonna start the
You know how
conversation
cruel
down with
nature is? You know how cruel nature is? A snake has venom that makes its prey bleed from the inside out, just melts him, excruciating death. And the snake has no choice, because that's how he needs to eat. The mother gazelle knows that probably her baby gazelle ain't gonna make it this year, because the lion cub got to eat. And the lion grabs his gazelle by the neck suffocates the baby gazelle, suffocates it, then drags it back to its nest, and then guts it, pretty much alive,
Brute force.
just to survive.
How the how the
And
how
you
the
want to
mama
tell
how
me
the
this
mama
is a benevolent nature?
how the mama be looking, Uncle said? How the mama be looking when the lion grabbed the baby out?
She's hurt. If she could save her, if she could save her baby gazelle, she would. She even cries for a
You
moment,
hurt, Dr.
and
said.
she lets it go. And she lets it go because shit, what you want to do? She's not like a human that has a the room and the ability to grieve and mourn. So she just gotta keep running, otherwise she's next.
She
I
next.
about to say she better let that motherfucker go if she want to have some more of them bitches.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. She
Hey,
gotta
that's
go with the
harsh.
program.
That's harsh.
But look at nature and tell me the benevolence of a God. Look at human evolution. We why the hell we live to 80 years and then die? Like why? Like God couldn't do better than that. Nobody wants to die.
We got people in Africa living to 43.
Dead.
I don't, to me, when it comes to that God shit, me personally, I don't understand how motherfuckers say, a motherfucker, you don't even know what the fuck this bitch look like. You finna worship this
And
motherfucker, you finna die by
Christianity
this
is
motherfucker. You
and
finna kill, you'll
Christianity
kill your
claim
damn kids by this motherfucker. This motherfucker ain't even real.
and Christianity claims to have the moral compass of the world when its foundation is completely immoral. First of all, a other man pays for whatever transgressions I did. That's not me accepting responsibility for my deeds and actions. That's amoral. And
You
number
can't do that
two,
in the court of
which,
law.
which is worst of all, which is worst of all, a daddy doesn't sacrifice his life for his child. He sends his child to be the sacrifice. What kind of fucking father are you?
Hey, man.
Like that book is completely crazy. The book starts off by saying a dude produces a female. The female comes out of him, then he subsequently has sex with her and has babies. Like, on how many levels of nasty is that?
Why the hell Joseph? Why the
Well,
hell
hold
Joseph
on,
ain't
Doctor
killed the
said.
baby yet?
Hold on, Doctor said. You got to realize now that that was the time, and that shit was acceptable back then, and back then you had babies to fuck them. You know what I mean? You had babies to actually fuck these babies. You didn't have babies to continue your lineage or whatever the correct term is. You had babies to fuck them, have sexual acts with them, and get your
Oh
rocks
my
off.
god. Oh my god.
I can't get
These
past the
things,
part where I can't
these
get past the part where your father, your God, which is your father, get mad at you because you realize you butt ass booty naked.
yeah,
Brother
you're
Chip.
like,
Come on, Brother Chip.
Like
listen,
I'm finna
listen.
beat the hell out
you
my
were
I want
motherfucking
mentioning
kids
I
if
have
they run
I
out this
have
door
both
butt ass naked. Somebody they don't
I
know they naked. I'm gonna beat the hell
I
out of them.
have I have done. First of all, how you tell two ignorant human beings that you just created, they didn't learn anything, they don't understand what's the consequence. You tell them don't eat from this one. What the hell does that mean?
what it means is that there is the tree of
It
the knowledge
doesn't mean nothing to
the
two
draw
ignorant human beings.
the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is to know in your life experience what is good or what is bad. And it's
That's not a tree with a
So
fruit on
your
it. That's
God,
life
so you telling
experience.
me that your God,
Man, we talking
which
about
in your
we talking
Bible,
about
it
manipulation.
say,
Manipulation at its finest. When they
man,
ate
this is
it,
a
it said
deceit book, man,
they will be
deceitful
like
book.
us.
Chip
They will be
said,
like us.
Chip said life experience, which you need to live to have, was supplanted and put in a fruit on a tree. Chip just said that. Y'all run past that stop sign.
Man, that shit. If they were doing that shit, it seemed like they
what
were
I
doing
say is that
artificial
what I
simulation and
say
all
is
that
that
shit back then. Then
when they disobeyed God in the story, when they disobeyed God in the story, they acquired the life experience.
so you telling me
Chip, Chip,
when you
they
disobey,
did
when you
not have the
disobey,
ability
oh
to
Lord,
discern. They did not know what disobeying was. They did not understand what to obey was. They were just 2 minutes into existence. Then they're put with a fruit that looks as sweet as can be, and now all of a sudden they disobey. They didn't know what obey or disobey was. They didn't even know
Obey
that
was
they
to
were
follow
naked.
God.
They
Disobey was
were
not to
they were
follow God.
exactly
how they
six
gonna
months
know that?
old.
How they gonna know what disobeying or obeying is if they got in trouble for gaining the knowledge?
They're 6 months old. They didn't even know they were naked. That's a 6 month old baby. They run around the beach butt naked, have no clue that they're naked.
Big grown ass babies.
Come on, brother Chip.
I cannot imagine that any adult would read this book and not sit there and giggle. Like, if you have any conceptualization of how the universe came into being, then you don't get first past the first line of the Holy Bible. In the beginning, God said, no, no, stop. Wait a minute. Hold up. Speech exists for 300,000 years because it is distinctly a trait of the Homo sapiens sapiens. In the beginning of the universe, when there's nothing, why would God need to speak, and to who and what language would that have been? So right there, we're done.
He would
We
have
don't get
spoken.
past the first couple of lines
He
to
would have
show
spoken
you
to the divine
that this is
council.
an inherently human endeavor. Humans speak.
He
Humans make
he
sound.
would
In the
have
vastness of
spoken to the
nothingness,
divine
sound doesn't
council.
travel. You need an atmosphere for sound and speech to work. In the vastness of the voidness of nothingness, there is no sound that travels. So how and why would a God speak when his sound wouldn't travel and there would be no one there to hear him? Because speech is a human endeavor. That is strike one, saying, hey, some dude wrote this while he was smoking on a joint.
Well, I mean,
Number
the people
two,
who wrote
number two,
that
in the
wrote them down
beginning,
from their
God
understanding
created
there.
light. God created light, and he made the first heaven, and he separated the dark from the light, and he made the first day. On the second day, God did some more magic. On the third day, God did a little bit more magic. On the fourth day, God created the sun and the stars and the moons and the heavens. Here we go. Pull your handbrakes up. X! How the fuck did you get to day number 4 if you didn't have a sun?
It would be a vision.
No, you don't. The simple answer is you don't. It's wrong. It's fallacious. It makes no sense. You cannot have a 24-hour, what we quantify as a day. And mind you, he separated the day from the night on day 1. And on day 4, they said, you know what? Let's stick a sun in here. When the sun was actually created by all means on day 1 already, because without the sun, you had no ability to get to day 4. So there's no way you're going to explain that away. You simply got to concede at this point that I'm a biblical master and you can't get out of Genesis. The book is full of nonsense. We don't need to read that. Throw it away.
If you can see it, you can see it as a vision in the mind of the person who's telling the story.
That's what I said. And therefore, throw it away. Because today in 2023, we have a comprehensive understanding of early cosmology and the formation of the universe. And we don't need a simplified 7-day account that is inherent by just reading it, it makes no sense as something that you can attribute to the infallibility of a God, thereby nullifying any and all claims made in that piece of accumulation of books written over many centuries by different people, rewritten, so that we don't even know that this is what they originally penned down. There is nothing about that doctrine that substantiates any claim of a God. And we still need evidence. We still haven't received 1 ounce of evidence to substantiate any claim of any of the gods throughout history. None.
Man, brother said, man, you got to believe. You got to have
I
faith.
believe I can fly. Every time I hear that word, I just get my R. Kelly mode. I believe I can touch the sky. I know I can't sing to save my life, but I dream about
You
it
got to
day
have
and
real
night.
strong faith, and you got to work hard. Cause you without faith, I mean, what it say? Faith without works is ungiven or whatever the boy.
Yeah, I can just do the work.
Just do the work, man.
I'm
I
gonna
Leave
just
the
think,
do the
faith
work.
where it's at,
hey,
man.
hey,
I'm gonna,
speaking
I'm
of the
gonna
stop
leave all
signs,
the rest of it.
Brother Chip, you can go in after this. Speaking of the stop signs, when you say in the beginning, God, blase, 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 God said, blase, 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 you saying God got a throat.
You got a neck.
He got a neck. And not just that, not just that, not just that, but
I
when
got a neck.
when they ate their fruit, when they ate their fruit and it said they will be like us. You know what I'm saying? We gotta that's another stop sign right there. They will be like us. What the hell you wanted us to be like?
Well, us is the
Who the
divine
hell is
council.
us?
The us is the divine council.
Divi- oh,
So who is that?
okay. So now we're gonna get to the question of infinite regress. Because if there's a divine council, that means there's one more than one of those mamas. So I want to know who their mommy and daddy is, which part of the galaxy of the universe they come from. Because if there's a divine council, I want to know where their headquarters is. How we conclude that there's a divine council when I'm still trying to find some evidence for just one God.
Hey, brother Chip, when you hear stuff like God said, you know what I'm saying? When you hear man writing stuff down that God said, or the God took him to the top of the mountain and he talked to God. I don't remember who the hell that was, but in the Bible, somebody
Moses
went to the top of the
Moses.
mountain. Who?
Moses went up to the top of the mountain, and God said to Moses, "Put on your dancing shoes. I'm gonna write you some commandments, baby.
Man,
Smoke
fuck
on
going
this
to the
bush."
top of the mountain, man. Burning bush, man.
He
That's
said,
it.
"Smoke on this bush. Don't look me in the eye unless you get high. Smoke some of this bush.
Man,
Smoke
smoking
some
that
of this
goddamn
bush."
combat then, boy.
And just
God
just
started
being
talking to him.
just being realistic, brother Chip. Just being realistic. When you hear about the miracles, when you hear about God talking to people, do you look at people like um who do you look at nowadays and say God is talking to them or that's a prophet? Or do you think all of those are old ways?
Benny Hinn.
He's a fraud.
Why is he a fraud and Jesus isn't? Jesus convinced a whole bunch of people that he didn't have a daddy.
So he capped like a motherfucker. He capped. He ain't no snap back.
And I
Old
resent
regular
that.
old cap.
I resent him denouncing Joseph and not accepting his carpenter status and claiming God as his daddy. Because that's as a father, I find that these are the seeds and the foundation of the root of all descent of families. Jesus denouncing Joseph as his daddy and claiming God. That's wrong.
Well, if it was intended that he would be a prophet, then he would acknowledge Joseph as father. That there's nothing wrong with being a prophet and having a father. They all had fathers.
Wait. A prophet don't mean that God was your daddy though.
No,
Because Isaiah was a prophet, but God wasn't his daddy.
Isaiah was a prophet, and he had a father. All of the prophets had fathers.
So Joseph was
Moses had a
really
father.
Jesus' daddy then.
The claim is that he didn't.
So who was Jesus' daddy?
Well, according to the story, it was the Holy Spirit.
Okay. My simplified mind needs to know how the Holy Spirit do what the Holy Spirit do. How? I don't have faith. And for me to exist in the real world, no faith is required. I need to know how.
Well, we don't know that. The answer is we simply don't know. In normal, if they're under normal, as the science as we understand it now, if there were to be such a thing as
No,
a
don't say science.
as a virgin birth without a father, then the child should be female, should be
No,
agricultural.
no, 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 no. You're not going to use pathogenesis. None of us here are reptiles. None of us here are lizards. None of us here are snakes. So parthenogenesis is not a matter of discussion within the mammalian realm. And seeing that Jesus is a human being, he's a mammalian and a placental. And therefore, parthenogenesis is not part of the discussion. Mm-mm. 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 And even if it was parthenogenesis does not have any divine intervention necessary. That would be then a recombination of the Y chromosome of the mother, which would produce a female offspring indeed, because there would be no X chromosome involved in that exchange. So that to that extent, I would give you that much, but then that would still exclude any gods from the equation. It's a lose-lose proposition, my friend. I do the science
Well,
stuff for real.
Well, we simply don't have the answer. We don't.
Yes, we have the
You do
answer.
got the answer.
It's made up. It's imagination. It's a
You do not
story.
have a
It's fantasy.
reproductive
It's the
organ.
hobbits.
Is that
It's the
right?
hobbits and Hogwarts from the ancient times.
Bo, send me one of the fruit roll-ups.
But he did some gas too, boy. Starburst.
What was it? We don't have the answer to what?
We don't have the answer to the theory of a virgin birth. We don't have that answer.
Yeah, we
So
do.
What kind of theory? That's not even a
I said we could do,
hypothesis.
and then
The speculation.
we could
It's
do a
made
virgin
up
birth
story.
related to do with surrogate mother. You know what I'm saying? They talking
But
about
you
a
know,
surrogate mother tip.
who's also the offspring of a woman being impregnated by a god?
Who was Hercules? Somebody
and
like
jo-
that?
and
Hercules,
Joseph
my
and Joseph
favorite.
not, and Joseph not in the county jail. Joseph supposed to be in the county jail. His wife get
Nah,
pregnant
he supposed to be on
and he
goddamn in
get
the prison.
Joseph supposed to have life. without parole. You fuck my wife and
Yeah.
and she have a baby and it's not my baby.
He supposed to be beheaded.
Mm-hmm.
So, Brother Chip, I just want to say it's a whole bunch of mysteries. It's a whole bunch of it's a whole bunch of fiction around the Bible and around the dates and around the characters. Like if you can't find Joseph bones, if you can't find Mary bones, Virgin Mary, if we can't find Adam and Eve bones, if we can't find Cain and Abel bones, if we can't find Mark, John, Luke, Matthew, Peter, if we can't find none of their bones, on top of that, a lot of this stuff is speculation. We gotta have faith. It's not based off facts. Brother Chip, that faith
Well,
got to be as strong as a goddamn mustard seed, like the Bible say.
we do have we do have the house of Mary in Jerusalem, which I visited.
The house of Mary.
We have the cave of we have the Cana, which I've also visited.
Is her bones in the house of Mary? Is her bones there?
Yeah, I mean, we don't we would be very it would be very surprising to find that. Now they did find about 15 years ago the ossuary of Caiaphas, the high priest at the time of the time of the crucifixion of Jesus. They also found within the last few years the pool of Siloam that was referred to in the Gospels.
Let me ask you this, Brother
You
Chip.
know that these are claims, right?
Right.
These
So
are
hold on. I got
unsubstantiated
him, Uncle
claims,
said.
right?
I got him, Uncle said. So when my brother Jesse come on the panel, which is a Muslim, and he say, no, we got Muhammad's burial site. We got Muhammad's burial ground. Just being fair, Brother Chip, what would you tell a
Well,
Muslim when they tell you they got Muhammad's burial site?
well, they do. They do have his burial site.
But his bones are not there.
Well, they could deteriorated in the last 1400 years. That would be perfectly within the
Brother
realm of
Chip, we
possibility.
still got dinosaur bones, Brother Chip. We got Egyptian bones from
But we don't have all of
10,000
them.
years ago, Brother
We
Chip.
don't have everybody's bones. We have lots
I
of
ain't
bones.
found all on.
I would have no
What was-
trouble saying that Muhammad was buried someplace in Medina. I mean, there's nothing extraordinary about that.
Now, what I'm saying is,
But they've also dug up that place 4 or 5 times. There's been absolutely no effort to preserve that place archaeologically. They've dug and redug and redug. So if there's anything there, it's been moved from one place to another.
when you got millions of people dying about this shit, you got millions of people going to war, blood, sweat, and tears. Allah Akbar, in the name of Jesus Christ, Rabbi Yeshua bin Yeshua Yahweh.
Yahweh been Yahweh.
When they dying about this belief stuff and we don't have no physical evidence, we don't have no primary sources, firsthand accounts, or when they was there walking with these people, it's coming 60 years, 100 years later. Brother Chip, you know damn, come on, Brother Chip. If it look like a donkey, it smell like a donkey. Come on, Brother Chip, it ain't a Clydesdale.
It must speak of an angel. If it look like a donkey, it must speak of an angel.
When Muslims say they got Muhammad burial ground, I want to see the bones. I don't want to see no big ass building. I don't want to see no pictures and flowers. I want to see the bones. So with the house of Mary,
But why would you want to see the bones though?
The Dalai Lama is 2,000 years old but reincarnated.
Didn't hear the last thing.
Say that again, brother. Say it again, Upper said.
And the Dalai Lama is 2,000 years old but reincarnated.
That they believe that, yes.
Why don't you believe that?
Well, I haven't investigated it very much, but I there's an awful lot of living things
How are you
that
going
have.
to investigate that?
What's that?
How would you investigate if the Dalai Lama is 2,000 years old but reincarnated?
Very difficult. I mean, the llamas, the llamas trace the
But
birth
he's
of
right
people
there
all
though.
around there.
But he's right there. You can see him. He's alive. He's making a spiritual claim, and you claim to need to investigate it, but have no way of substantiating the claim of any other God.
I mean, if you were looking at at Lama Buddhism from that point of view, they trace the exact second of the death of the current Dalai Lama, and then they trace the birth of every other child that's born within a very short time of the death of the Dalai Lama, and then I'm not sure what else they do to try to trace down who they think their successor is.
Yeah,
Um,
so all arbitrary and and unfalsifiable uh, parameters. There's no rhyme or reason to the parameters chosen. It must be this, it must be that, must be this, must be that. And there is no rhyme or reason to why that has to be the case. That is just the case, unfalsified.
Hey
We
Bo, did you
understand
say?
all these things.
Hey Bo, did you say why do I need to see the bones?
Nah, I was mocking brother Jess. You know that
Okay,
what Jess gonna say. I
but
just
yeah,
want to
so
see the bones of Abraham. We got the proof.
we need the bones of Noah and Moses,
Abraham too.
Adam and Eve. Brother
Jesus
Chip, we
too.
need this
at the
evidence.
moment, as far back as the farthest back that there is a reference to any biblical character in archaeology is a amulet which was found quite recently mentioning the house of David. So David didn't have a mention until very recently, and then they've discovered an amulet with the name House of David on it from approximately that time. So so
I'm
these
saying, but
things
did they find a
are
bone
sort of
though?
a hit and miss.
So that's like finding. So that's basically like walking into town and finding a flyer, like a Superman flyer,
Or an arrowhead or something?
or like what they call what they be watching nowadays. The kids, what that cartoon stuff called anime. That's like walking down the street picking up an anime flyer off the ground.
Well,
So like
except that people are probably going to make an amulet from the 11th, from the ninth or 10th century that has some reflection of reality. It's not that big of a miracle to think that there was somebody named David who had a kingdom in Israel. That's not that difficult to conceive of.
now, can we find his? If we could, if we can't substantiate where where his bones at, or where his burial mound is, a burial tomb is, a burial cave is. If we can't substantiate that type of evidence, what do
Well,
we go?
there is a traditional tomb of the prophets in Israel. There is that, but now how much of that has been excavated? What have they found? If they did find bones, how would they trace that back to David if they did find it? I mean,
I
you.
think they would trace it the same way they trace his works, the same way they trace the papers and the papyrus. When something is important to a civilization, they hold on to it dearly.
Well, I mean, they have the traditional burial place for the Israeli kings, and so, but if they do find bones, how are they could possibly find a genetic family familial relations between one of another king of Israel. You could probably trace it back with DNA. Now, how much of that has been done, I'm not sure.
Real quick, before we get up out of here, this is my last question, brother Chip. When we look at the 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 race for Egypt, the race for excavating the land of Egypt, all that goddamn digging, they trying to find the bones for every goddamn king and pharaoh and priest that Egypt ever had. When you look at the Bible narrative, you got the people that's fighting over there, Jerusalem, you got Babylon, a little down the way. You got all these little Bible towns. Will there ever be a race to Jerusalem or a race to the Holy Land where they excavating the Holy Land trying to find these biblical character bones? Or you
They
feel
are constantly excavating in Israel. Every time they turn over a shovel, they come across something that requires an archaeologist to come and take a look at it. So it's ongoing. It's constant. The problem is that and you can see that in places that have been lived in a long time. You just don't know what's buried underneath. It's down. You have what's on the surface level, and then you have whatever is down as much as 20, 30 feet below, which is the area that you're really interested in. And these places are all built a layer upon layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. And the area that you're interested in looking at, the first century AD, is down 6 meters, 10 meters. So it's a lot of work. And then what survives doesn't survive evenly. You can find things that were in you could be someplace, it could be a royal palace, or you could find somebody's hut, or you could find somebody's farm back from you could find a farm from the 17th century, go back to the 15th century, go back to the 11th century, go back to the 5th century. It's all down there. It's down and down and down.
already? Rambo Yappa Chopper, you want to close us out?
Man,
Nice to see you all. Talk to you another time.
religion is
Hey,
not the way.
hold it down.
Religion is not the answer. Knowledge is the answer. Most things believe in. And majority of that is science. I ain't gonna say it's 100%. I could say it's 100%, but I ain't gonna say it's 100% because you got to use common sense.
Hey, yeah. Hey, Bo, we ain't even go play crazy. We ain't even go say it's 100%. We gonna use common sense and our instincts. We gonna use all that too. You feel me?
Yeah, we got to do that. Because if not, shit, you might as well goddamn go be a Christian or
Nah, you might as
Muslim.
well go. You might as well go put some goggles on and put a lab coat on and get your ass in the lab and go get a degree. That's
I'm
what you
just
might as
saying,
well do. We
if
we
you ain't
we
gonna
go
use your common sense, and you just
we
gonna
gonna
go for anything, yeah, you might as well go be a Christian.
nah because it's not necessarily going for anything. It's understanding you would be so much understanding the real world. You would be talking like Uncle said about the quantum theory and quantum physics and all that extra stuff. So you ain't gonna get out. You ain't gonna get out for. You ain't gonna get brainwashed. You ain't gonna get sidetracked. You feel me? You gonna be able to make a decent living. You know what I'm saying? Being in somebody goddamn lab. But to get to the bigger point of what you were saying, bro, it ain't 100% science. We got game that we grew up on watching uh failure and watching success. You know what I'm saying? So it ain't 100% science. I ain't even go I don't even want you to think that's what I got going on.
I hope not. I don't think so though. I know you're a little better than that now.
Or that's what we trying to push. We ain't no goddamn we ain't got no goddamn goggles on. We in the real world. Your ass behind on child support, science can't help you with that. You
Damn,
get pulled
okay.
over by a cop, science can't help you with that.
You're right. We ain't fighting world peace. Just enlightened. But yeah, man, with that being said, man, that's really how I feel though. Like we just gotta get to the bottom of this shit, man. We still been lied to and all that bullshit, but at the same time, a lot of that shit they laid it out for us. You feel me? They put little shit out there like religion and politics and all that bullshit to keep you occupied, so you can't even goddamn fathom the real shit, the shit that matters. That politics and religion shit do not matter. But at the end of the day, these goddamn countries, these leaders of these countries gonna do what the fuck they want to do. No matter how many votes, motherfuckers vote for who and all this shit, that shit don't matter.
Already. Man, what today is? Tuesday. We're gonna go live Thursday. Definitely go get it in. My boy Jalen tried to pull it up. I think he had some technical issues. Brother Darkness pulled up. He had some technical issues. We definitely gonna get it in Thursday, man. Gulla, fuck with us, man. Bring your ass up here
Oh
Thursday.
yeah, man.
Drop that goddamn knowledge. Rambo Yappa Chopper,
I
man.
feel
Hold it
you.
down, man. Stay solid, man. You know what's going on.
You too, brother.
All right.
Yes, sir.